Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am Kristen Boice, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice, Pathways to Healing Counseling. Through conversations, education, strategies, and shared stories, we will be closing the chapter on all the thoughts, feelings, people, and circumstances that don't serve you anymore and open the door to possibilities and the real you. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to subscribe. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. I am so excited you're here today. We have never done an episode on gut health and hormones, and I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest. You'll want to grab the journal that I have for free to go along with this episode. It's another step in working on your own trauma and fears and anxieties. You can get it for free at kristendboice.com/free resources. So let me introduce you to today's guest. Lauren Gallahan is a former therapist turned health and performance coach for goddesses in midlife and beyond. Obsessed with gut health and extreme self-love, Lauren helps women find rockstar energy, which I love, goddess inner strength, and epic health and well-being. Lauren is the author of the book Couch to 50 Miles, which I asked her about the book, so I was really intrigued. An inspirational story of Lauren's transformation journey from scarcity and survival to learning the secrets of nutrition, training, recovery, inner peace, and the owner of Goddess Health, helping women to thrive through perimenopause and menopause. We talk about gut health in layman's terms. Like, what is it exactly? What can you do about it? How do hormones impact you? How do they impact our moods? How's gut health impact our mood, our production of serotonin, our sleep, our anxiety, all the things. So we kind of jump into your basics about gut health and then some practical steps on how to improve how you feel about yourself, your motivation, your energy, your brain fog. So here is my important conversation with Lauren Gallahan. Enjoy. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. This is such an important episode. As I introduce my guest, Lauren, to you already, I'm so excited to welcome you, Lauren, to the Close the Chapter podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We've actually never done an episode on perimenopause, menopause, how it affects us. So I'm excited to jump in. But before we get to that, tell us about your journey from couch to 50 miles. Your book title, first of all, captured my attention because I was like, tell me, couch to do 50. So talk to us about your journey.
One of the reasons I named that was because when I tell people that I've run 50 miles, I've done ultras, I've done Ironmans, that sort of thing, the number one thing that I hear is, oh, I could never do that. I can barely walk a mile. And what I want to tell people is that only about 6 or 7 years ago, I was the exact same. I could barely walk or run a mile. And so, the term couch was really the fact that, I spent most of my life sitting at a desk, right? Desk jobs, being in school. Like from the beginning for me, academics was the prize thing, right? So I was always sitting. And I had a job for a little while where I wasn't sitting, and then I went back to school and I was sitting, right? And I was back in school for being a counselor, right? So I was sitting. And I was like, I've got to do something. So I began walking/jogging about a mile a day. And I'm not undermining that at all. I mean, that was really important to my journey, but that's how it started. That was me. I could barely do a mile at that point. So I think I just wanted people to see that, again, I wasn't that far from it.
So wait, growing up, did you exercise? Tell me about that. Like, were you athletic?
No, I was not athletic. I mean, there was things here and there that I was interested in. Like I would go to see my dad in the summers and we would play tennis together. There really wasn't much going on. I mean, I was interested in volleyball sometimes. I liked doing badminton and PE, but I was not athletic. I would never describe myself as that. Yeah. So I just was always sitting in Louisiana, and it was the summers. And so it'd be really hot. I'd be inside watching TV. I never really grew up with anything athletic.
I didn't either. So let's talk about this, because a lot of clients and people come in, and this including myself. How did you get the motivation? Because people feel like, I want to feel healthier. I want to feel better. I just don't feel motivated to do it.
I think when it started for me, it truly was just a very cognitive knowledge that I need to do something. I can't just be sitting, like I know that this is not healthy for me. And I will say that I have a very deep love of being outside. So that certainly helped. Anything going on a walk, just being outside. It's wonderful on a million levels, but it's just very therapeutic to the soul to be outside. Just to go outside and walk felt really good. And that in and of itself, there's an element of exercise, whatever that is, even if you're just being outside or whatever, but there's an element of it that is just very self-rewarding, right? You feel good after you've done it. And so that little bit of motivation and the fact that I knew that I needed to do something was enough to get me started for sure. Now, I'm not going to lie, like to progress in running, I'm going to talk about this in my book. Like any good story, it starts with a boy. Like I met my future husband. He's my husband now. But when I met him, he was actually training for his first half marathon. And it was going to be at St. Jude's because his daughter is a St. Jude's patient. My stepdaughter now is a St. Jude's patient. She's cancer free. But, I met him like, oh, I'm a runner now. So that is how it progressed. It's maybe not everybody's story for sure.
So let's talk about like you're starting to move more, okay? And people are like, I still have the energy. I don't have the mental like capacity for it. I don't have the energy. How do you build up stamina and energy to kind of continue to move your body?
I have a few answers for that. And one is that you build the energy to do something by doing it. I had a yoga instructor, actually, he would say, in order to do the thing, you've got to do the thing. And so what I normally tell people is give it at least 5 minutes, because no matter how you feel at the beginning, you might feel maybe you just woke up or maybe it's an afternoon sort of thing or whatever, but you might be in a tired sort of funk or you just woke up or whatever it is. You may not feel like doing it, but if you give it 5 minutes, maybe 10, you usually feel like doing it. Like there's just there's a reason that people encourage you to do a warm up. Like certainly it warms up your muscles and all the things, but mentally it gets you in a place where you are more motivated. And there's so many physiological processes happening at that point, but you just start doing it in order often to feel motivated to do it. The second thing I would say to that is, that doesn't mean if you're not motivated, it's not like you think, okay, I can barely do a mile now, but I want to go run a marathon, which is an amazing goal, but that's a down the line goal. And I would focus on what is realistic for you right now. If 1 mile is a thing that you can feel motivated for, or whatever it is, we're talking in terms of running because that's what I did. But for anybody, like maybe just starting a workout for the first time ever, like give it 10 minutes and be done. And that's great. And then give it 10 minutes the next day. And eventually there will come a point where you feel motivated to do 12. You feel motivated to do 15. So those small incremental things get started and then keep your growth small and incremental. And the other thing I'd say to that, and it sounds like, we'll touch more on this later, but there really is an element to feeling motivated that is completely physiological. And that has a lot to do with our gut health. And again, I can geek out on the science with that if you want me to, maybe especially later, but you don't just feel motivated by thinking your way through something. There are things going on physiologically that you can really support in your body so that you just feel more motivated. So yeah, that answers the question.
Yes, I like the bite-sized chunks, like small steps, small goals to start with. So it feels not so daunting and overwhelming. I think that's the one thing our brain can kind of go, well, I can't do that. That's too much. But if we do it, like you said, start with 5 minutes, that feels more manageable. And I think then your brain can go, oh, that felt good. I did it.
Yeah. And that brings in that self-rewarding aspect at that point too. That felt good. Let me do a little bit more of that. And maybe I don't do more of that until tomorrow, but it is self-rewarding.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about gut health. We hear this a ton, gut health. And on a theoretical level, so people can go, I kind of get what that means, but let's explain in layman's terms, what does it mean for people that are like, I hear it, but what are we talking about exactly?
Sure. Yeah. And maybe I'll explain in the context of how and why I first got interested in it. At the point that I was interested in it, I had become healthier than I'd ever been. Like I've always been skinny, but I've not been healthy. And that has shown up in a number of ways, but I was very much not healthy. But I'd gotten to a point in my life where I was healthier than I'd ever been. I was eating as healthy as I knew to eat, exercising at this point. I was regularly running. My God, like I'm a yoga instructor, like I was a therapist, like I do all the things to take care of myself as best I knew how. But I really had a point where I wondered, what if all the healthy things that I'm doing for myself don't matter because my gut is not healthy enough to receive it? And that was really one of the best questions I could have asked because I was right. My gut was not healthy to receive, especially the healthy foods, but a lot of the other healthy things that I was doing for it. Now, I knew that first because I tested it, right? Like there are objective things that you can do. Gut health doesn't have to be a lot of guesswork. There are a lot of general things that you can do to improve your gut health, but I got it tested so I could actually see what was going on. And here I am, the one who's eating fruits and vegetables and kind of not really eating too much sugar. And again, doing the things that were as healthy as I need to do. And I'm looking at my gut health and I basically got an F. And I've already told you, like academics has been the prized thing throughout my life. Like I don't get an F and be okay with it. So I started doing the things, not just eating healthy. It's more than that, but I started doing the things just to bolster the health of my gut. And then my body was able to receive the healthy things that I was doing for it. And basically the thing with your gut is, scientists are calling it your second brain. And there's a reason for that. It's related to everything. You can think your way into a wonderful mood, but if you don't have a healthy gut, it's an uphill battle. You can think yourself into being motivated all day long for whatever you want to do. But if your gut isn't healthy, you have an uphill battle because it's just connected to everything. You can play the music to have more energy. It's an uphill battle if your gut is not healthy because it's just related to everything.
So how does someone test their gut health? Like they're like, I don't know. I don't know if my gut's healthy or not. How does someone go about that?
Yeah, there are actually different companies out there. I'm definitely not familiar with all of them. I started with one and I've stuck with them because it was just such a positive experience. And so with my own clients, I always have them go test with this one company. It's called Excella. And it's just a very simple pinprick blood test that you mail off and they give you very user-friendly results. And their dietitian will meet with you to help explain it and kind of send you on your way. And again, like with my own clients is kind of where I come in, where we take what you got and then we make it sustainable and we make it doable and practical over like the next 4 months. But again, there are other companies out there. I'm just not familiar with them.
So you prick, send it away, and then you get your results.
Yeah.
And it tells you what you're deficient in, or what does it tell you? What's the information you get back?
Yeah, so there are many, many, many different gut metabolites that exist within your gut, but Excella specifically tests 11 of them. And the reason for these 11 is because they just show up again and again as being related to like everything. Okay, so when I say everything, I mean your energy efficiency, your cognitive clarity. Okay, so think like brain fog, right? Mm-hmm. Your emotional stability. Okay, so your ability to feel happy, calm, motivated. Their gut metabolites that are directly related to that. Certainly your gastrointestinal fitness, your immunity. Okay, so your ability to like be around sick people and that be okay. So there are 11 different gut metabolites that are specifically like very related to those things. And so, yeah, you find out if they are within optimal level, if they are above or below, and what you do if they are above or below.
So like supplements or exercise or eating certain foods?
Yes, a lot of different things. So again, it's a little bit of guesswork if you don't get tested. But yes, as far as general practices for improving your gut health, yeah, there are a lot of different things. Like certainly reducing stress is a huge one. Usually for most people, eating more fiber, actually, it's just kind of a surprising one. And that's the reason behind that is because your gut loves bacteria. And it loves for there to be different bacteria, and it loves for there to be a lot of bacteria, which you will not get if you are on a diet of like chips and stress. Okay, like that's not going to happen. So, for example, eating fiber is going to support the population and the diversity of bacteria in your gut microbiome. There's certainly certain foods that will help you along that I'll highlight for women in particular. Okay, and let me say this about women. This is in my experience. They are always at a worse starting point with their gut health than men. That is my own experience in testing clients, okay? I'm not exactly basing that on research, but what I have seen is that you can have a man who is quote unquote concerned about his health, but his salads mean that he's like having a bowl of like ranch dressing with a little bit of iceberg lettuce, or he lives, breathes, and eats stress, right? Or whatever. He's got these habits. And And he's saying, I'm basically trying to be healthy. And then you can have a woman who is like really doing all the things to try to be healthy. Like she's eating her fruits and vegetables and she's doing yoga and all these things. And I'm telling you, almost every single time, like her gut health will be worse than his. And I don't know, it's just man and woman thing. But often the other thing that I see with women is that their serotonin levels. So that serotonin is a gut metabolite, it's a neurotransmitter, but it's a gut metabolite that gets tested. And every single time, I'm telling you, a woman's serotonin levels will be low. And so here's what I want to say about this, especially, well, yeah. So like you're a therapist, right? I was, right? We live in this world of like serotonin levels. A little known fact about that is that 90% of your body's serotonin is actually produced in your gut. And so if you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm not happy, they will more than likely prescribe to you an SSRI with one of those S's being serotonin. Basically, without all the science behind it, it just affects the way your body produces and processes serotonin. And so the conversation you and I are having is not about whether a listener should take an SSRI or not. That's not my scope of practice. But what I would say to be informed is that your body naturally is able to produce it. And I've seen it over and over again. I've seen it with myself and I've seen it with other clients. When you improve your gut health, you can actually naturally improve your serotonin levels. So you were unhappy and you thought that there was a problem with you. And it actually wasn't. You just weren't eating enough fiber and de-stressing enough. And you weren't eating enough tryptophan-rich foods, such as chicken thighs and like free-range eggs, because tryptophan breaks down into serotonin, okay, within a healthy gut microbiome. Like you just didn't have enough of that going on, right? And so an issue that you can possibly run into is if you go and take an SSRI, which again, I'm not saying not to, I'm saying that we should be informed, is that an SSRI actually takes the production of the serotonin in your body out of your gut and moves it up to your brain. So that's a less sciencey way to put that. But so basically what happens is that maybe you're producing it now, but now you've got a host of other issues in your gut because serotonin is also hugely responsible for initiating digestion. And so if it's not down in your gut doing that thing, now you've got other problems. It also breaks down into melatonin. Now you're having trouble sleeping, right? So it's like a lot of the things that maybe we're trying to fix, like through medication, actually, if we can do the things to promote a healthy gut, they will begin working very nicely. And again, I've seen this with myself. I've seen it with clients. It's like you think you're crazy. And then it's like, oh, I improved my gut. I'm not crazy. I'm happy now and I can sleep, right?
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about hormones and how that.
Yeah.
Here we are, perimenopause. To kind of define perimenopause and menopause, just to distinguish the two. And then how does that play into serotonin making in our gut and mood and all the fun things that we deal with during that?
Yeah. So menopause, when you have not had your period, well, God, I think it's for a year is how that would exactly be defined. And then perimenopause is that period up to it, which for a lot of people is actually worse, right? Like you're still getting your period. Maybe you're getting it more, maybe you're getting it less. Maybe it's very sporadic, but it is that period leading up to, or that time leading up to when you do not have a period anymore. And both are awful depending on who you talk to. They can be awful, but they don't necessarily have to be, is what I'm getting at here. But what I want to say about menopause and perimenopause is that yes, estrogen and progesterone, that production in your body is changing. Now, usually it's declining. Actually, that's not true for 100% of women going through the process, but usually that is often what is happening. So the reason that I really emphasize why this is so important for women, why gut health is so important for women in perimenopause and menopause, why hormones and how we're taking care of them are so important is because especially estrogen and progesterone is declining. Now, let's think about this on one end. Estrogen is in and of itself an anti-inflammatory in your body. So during perimenopause and menopause, you've got declining levels of estrogen. So now what you have is a pro-inflammatory process. Like just by merely living through perimenopause and menopause, you are fighting inflammation like you never have before. So women who come into a therapy office, for example, and are like, oh my God, I have always been able to deal with my stuff. What is happening to me? I can't stop crying. I feel terrible. Yes. Like I've always been able to do this and I can't do this now. Well, for one, you've got inflammation in your body or an uphill battle with inflammation like you've never had before. And inflammation is pretty much like the root of all evil, right? It will get your mood. It will get your physical, everything, right? It affects everything. And then on the other hand, what's going on is that you've got declining levels of progesterone. Now, here's what we need to know about this. When your body has the choice to process cortisol, because you're stressed, your body's flooding with cortisol. When that exists in your body, and your body has a choice to process cortisol or to process progesterone, okay, which you've got declining levels of, right? It will choose to process cortisol because cortisol is telling it we're in a fight or flight situation here. Like, this is survival. So your body's like, I don't really care if progesterone is going to help you fight hot flashes right now, or it's going to help you be in a good mood. We're fighting for life right now. Like, this is fight or flight. So it basically, that progesterone, which is already declining, it's almost like it's not even there. So your body has to deal with the stress. So once again, coming back to that woman who comes into the therapy office and is just like, oh my God, I've always been able to deal with my stuff and I can't deal with it now. Well, you've got an uphill battle here with progesterone and with estrogen. And so one of the things I tell my clients, maybe specifically on that progesterone side, is you have to make self-care a priority like you have never made it before. I know that you used to be able to sacrifice for everybody and anybody, and it was okay, and you were still fine. But that's not true anymore. That's not true anymore. In that sense, I almost consider like perimenopause and menopause to be like, I say this carefully, but almost like a blessing in disguise, because you are truly forced now to love yourself and care for yourself in a way that you've never allowed yourself to do before, because now you just have to.
Yeah, you're forced into coping in a different way. Yeah. What you've done to kind of caretake, be the peacemaker, do all the things. It's now like the alarm bells are going off. Because that cortisol is shooting through the body. And so what are some practical things? Let's say someone's in peri or they're in menopause and they're like, I feel like I am a mess. That's what people say. I feel crazy. I feel like I'm in a brain fog. I can't remember anything. I'm not sleeping. My moods are everywhere. I don't feel like myself. What are some practical things people can start doing if you're in this phase of life?
Yeah. So number one, I would say that, like I said a moment ago, that you have to prioritize your self-care like you've never done before. You have to be selfish. And you have to understand along with that you're not really being selfish. That selfish is really not selfish. Being selfish is actually one of the most selfless things that you can do for the world. Because when you care for yourself and love yourself, you are better able to show up for other people. That is always true. But bringing it back, a woman in perimenopause or menopause, when you first take care of yourself, you are allowing your body to not be flooded with cortisol, right? And to maximize, optimize the progesterone that you do have and the estrogen that you do have so that you feel better. You can actually sleep at night, be a nice human being when you wake up in the morning. And you can feel happy and calm instead of being like, oh my God, like I'm the one with RPF. I'm biting everybody's head off.
Exactly. You're like, you're breathing and you're like, you're driving me crazy. I mean, that's how it feels.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm not getting sick all the time, right? Because my body has what it needs. So yeah, you have to make your self-care number one. The thing after that I would say is really dive into gut health. Again, there are a lot of general things that we can do. I named a few, like reducing stress, eating fiber, eating, for example, tryptophan-rich foods. That's just a high-quality amino acid. So like your chicken thighs, your eggs, things like that. Eating balanced meals. Okay, women are in this idea of I've got to cut out carbs and I've got to cut out fat and I've got to cut out food. Like, no, don't do that. Your body doesn't like that. Your gut does not like that. It wants balance. It wants you to have carbs. It wants you to have high quality fats. It wants you to have high quality proteins, and it wants those to be balanced. So that doesn't mean like eat a protein bar and be like, well, I'm a woman. I just got protein. Like your body doesn't want that. It wants balance. So those are huge things for taking care of your gut. Certainly get it tested. That is really huge. Reducing inflammation. That was the other one I was going to say. Remember that perimenopause and menopause are pro-inflammatory processes. And that's going to look different for everybody. Okay. That's not a one size fits all sort of solution. There are a number of different things. For some people, it is just making sure that they are really protecting their sleep. For somebody else, it means doing yoga. For somebody else, it means meditating for 5 minutes. For somebody else, it means deep breathing at like systematic transitions throughout the day. Gut health is related to inflammation. It's all interrelated there. Those are the big ones that I would say that women need to be paying attention to.
It's such an interesting time because a lot of us didn't grow up with this information. Like our parents were like, you're going to have inflammation or you don't have enough fiber. Some people are like, I don't even know what fiber, like, how do I get? I mean, this is kind of the truth, though. People don't know, like, you say get more fiber, and someone's like, I don't know what that is. The basics. What would you say to somebody that says, I don't even know where to begin to get more fiber?
Yeah, for sure. Fiber is one of those, if you're not used to it and then you load yourself up with it, it may not go so well for your stomach. You may not have a good day.
Maybe have a toilet a little bit.
Yeah. So it is one that you kind of need to ease into. But think whole foods, especially fruits, vegetables, start there. Then yes, whole grains, nuts and seeds. Those things all have high fiber. I'm really used to this. My eating more fiber is not an issue for my stomach because I have eased into that. I can tell you that I have a quarter cup of chia seeds and a cup of milk every day, plus all the fruits and vegetables. So yeah, I think fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains. Those are really great places to get your fiber.
Okay, let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about trauma and gut health.
Yeah.
How
beautiful
does trauma impact gut health, and what can someone do about that?
Yeah, beautiful. So trauma, we know, is also a very pro-inflammatory process. When you have trauma, your body is in a very low level, constant state of stress. Okay. And we always raise the bar on this. I know that you've had people who are like, no, I'm not stressed. And you're like, whoa, when you look at their life, right? That looks like stress to me, right? But we always raise the bar on this so that we really kind of have no idea like how stressed we are sometimes. For example, okay, let me derail for just a second. When I test people's gut health, okay, one of the gut metabolites that gets tested is xanthine. And xanthine is a marker of our stress levels, physical, emotional, mental stress of all kinds. Okay, so you can have an athlete who's like overtraining and might have high xanthine, and you've got somebody else who is grieving a loved one, and so they have high stress, right? Either way, the xanthine is high, okay? So when you have trauma and you're living with it, it's unresolved, it's not healed, you have a low level of stress constantly, okay? Which means that you have a high xanthine level, probably. So now your gut is in an inflamed kind of state and nothing is going to get processed well. So, for example, you might be eating all the fiber, you might be eating the fruits and vegetables, you're eating the tryptophan-rich foods, you're eating omega-3 rich foods. That's another one I didn't mention, but that's a good one. You're doing a lot of the healthy things, but because you have trauma that you are not doing the things to address and heal, you have constant low-level stress that is giving you a high xanthine level that is giving you an unhealthy gut. So yeah, directly related.
Yeah. And I think we don't realize that the body holds everything. So if you don't have what we call explicit memory of something, we call that implicit memory. It means it's stored in the nervous system. It's stored in the body. And so that's why therapy combined with working on nutrition, would you say is ideal?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. You have to do all the things. You can't just do one. You can't just take the supplements or exercise or eat more fiber or do the things to improve your gut health and not address trauma in your life. You can't just address trauma and treat your physical body like crap. Like you can't do just one and expect a good outcome. Your body needs all the things because you're not a robot. You're a human being and you're very multifaceted and you have to care for it and love it in a million different ways. I mean, it's just like you can't go like plant a garden, you can't plow it up, throw out some seeds and just leave it there. You've got to weed it, you've got to fertilize it, you got to tend to it, you maybe have to prune it, got to water it. You have to love and nurture it, and our bodies are the same way.
That's a good analogy, I mean, of the garden, because sometimes we feel like, well, I don't have time and that's one of the things we've got to, like you're saying, we got to prioritize self-care. And it may look like giving up some things that you previously might have felt like I can't give up, but you're being called, you're being invited into looking at what are those things that are weighing you down? What are those things that no longer serve you?
Yeah, I love that. And getting curious about those things that maybe before seemed like an absolute necessity in your life, getting curious about that is really important. Is it necessary to do that thing? Is the world going to fall apart if I miss this? If I say no to something, does it really mean that actually I'm saying yes to myself and I'm saying yes to the people that I love? Because energy isn't created, it's just divided, right? So if you're sending your energy to one thing all the time, you just don't have it left over for yourself and the people that you love. Or again, that looks different for everybody, but saying no is a way of saying yes to what's important to you.
Exactly. Okay, talk to me. I'm looking at this gut health and the MTHFR. Am I saying that right? Do you know anything about that? The MTHFR gene?
I'm not familiar. No.
Okay, it's the new thing that I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
educated on this, so I didn't know if you knew about it. It's connected to how we metabolize, and I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
No, but I'm so interested. I want to go check it out now.
Yeah, it's called the MTHFR, and you can do a cheek swab to figure out if you have it, and then it affects serotonin production. It affects how you're producing certain things in the gut health. So I don't know. I was just thought I'd ask because I'm still new at learning some of these pieces and parts. I think these are just kind of coming out with more research.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So tell me about how you use internal family systems, IFS, for those. I've talked about it throughout different episodes of the podcast. The parts work. We might feel like a part of us feels excited about something and a part of us might feel scared about something. A part of us might feel demotivated and a part of us said, I really want to do this, but the other part kind of says, it's too much. I'm just giving you a Cliff Notes, like real life example of how parts.
Yeah.
How do you use those parts, the internal family systems, with doing this work around hormones and gut health? And how does that get integrated in, or does it?
Yeah. Oh God, I love that question. I'd say maybe there's answers on a few different levels to that. For one, IFS is so important to me, and it's not just maybe a model for therapy or for coaching. It's just a way of being now for me on a very deep level, right? It's a very compassionate way of just being with yourself and being with the world. So say, for example, there are a lot of therapists and coaches or whoever that maybe get really frustrated with a client's seeming lack of progress, if that exists. And I think IFS helps us it helps me for sure, as practitioners, to just be with that very compassionately and realize that everybody moves at different levels and at different speeds. And that's because everybody has different parts with different needs. And there's nothing bad or wrong about that at all. It just means that certain parts need to be loved in a certain way for them maybe to take the next step that makes sense, even a very healthy, good one, right? Like taking care of your gut health or prioritizing self-care, all the things. A client's parts may not be on board with that just yet, and that's okay. They need a lot of love and nurturing. Then more explicitly how I bring it into my work, I guess maybe I just make that more explicit, right? Like some people are very frustrated with themselves. I've heard this over and over again. I know that I need to be doing this. I know that I should be doing this. And oh my God, I've heard people say I'm the worst client ever, and they're not at all. Again, a lot of I shoulds. I know that I should be doing this, or it should just be so simple. And so I just help those people become a little bit more aware and compassionate with their own parts. Hey, actually, for example, I had a client who she's just so wonderful and just doing a million things, but boy, she's having a hard time kicking the habit of smoking and has done really well with it and has beat herself up for it and has been very frustrated with her own parts over that. And in that process, though, I bring a lot of compassion to that part of her that has not been ready to give up. And she has learned to bring her own compassion to that part. And she has begun to realize a lot of different things around that part. For example, that part grieved a lot. It lost a lot. And it felt like many things were taken away. And this was one of those things that kind of wanted to dig its heels in and be like, you're not taking this away from me too. Well, God, I can understand that. We all can understand that, right? And so even just knowing that for her was in and of itself just a huge release of stress, right? To know that she's not this stubborn person who just can't get it. She's not that at all. No, she just has a part that needs to be loved and needs her to be patient and needs her to pursue this goal, maybe at a slower speed. And that's totally okay. And she'll get there. So it just helps people bring a lot more compassion to themselves and get out of that cycle of self-judgment and frustration with yourself and feeling like you shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yes. And I think that helps somebody feel like that part can come forward and be seen without judgment.
Yeah.
Because we all feel so judged. And it's like we know judgment doesn't really heal anything or anyone. So
that's right.
You can have that compassion for that part. There's safety built into that. And then we build a more secure relationship with ourselves. And ultimately, that's really the goal, is to start loving ourselves. So what would you say are the top three, like if you wanted to say, I just have top three things that I want listeners to know about, like if you were passionate about, what would be those three things that you would like, these are the top three takeaways or things maybe something we didn't even talk about that you would want a listener to walk away with our conversation today?
Sure. Well, God, I think at the top of my head, the first thing I want to say is exactly what we were just now talking about, is to bring compassion to yourself and the different parts of you that have those I should be ... Those are parts of you that just need extra love, and they're not going to get anywhere with you and that part of you digging in your heels and having a battle with each other. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of David Goggins, who I've only listened to a little bit, but I remember him talking about him having an argument with his shoes one day. Like, he was going to go out on a run and he sat there looking at his shoes, probably cussing out his shoes and cussing out himself. You know, if you ever listen to David Goggins, right? In the fight with his shoes. Yeah, okay.
Stop. You're like,
right. And in the end, he won. He got on the shoes and he went for a run, you know? Like, I don't know. That's such a guy way of thinking. I don't know. That's very stereotypical for me to say that. But there's a different way. Like, you could be compassionate with yourself. And actually, that is the very thing that begins to bring healing and begins to help you make progress toward the goal that you want to make. So that would be number one. And second one, right in line with that, is where I always say that you have to be extremely selfish and understand that being selfish is not selfish. It's actually the most selfless thing that you can do. And I'll say really quick, maybe an example from one of my clients. She is amazing at this. And when she learns this lesson, I mean, we're all continually learning this lesson. That's not like a one and done, you got it. But I would say once she got really, really good at prioritizing her self-care, she said, Lauren, I am more present for my kids now. I'm more present for my husband, and I'm more present at work, and I do a better job at work. And that was because she really started prioritizing her self-care. And then the third one would be gut health all the way. Oh my God, I could talk forever about it. But yes, take care of your gut because it's related to everything. Again, there's a reason why scientists are calling it your second brain. You can't just think your way into being a healthy, happy, well-adjusted human being. You have to take care of your gut if you want to be that person.
Yes. Thank you so much for educating us on that, because we're really trying to understand it in a practical sense. And so you explained it in that way, which is really helpful to know this is what it looks like. These are the steps you can take, and this is what you can do. If someone wants to learn more about you, work with you, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is just my name, Lauren B. Callahan. The B is for Brianna, okay? laurenbcallahan.com. And on the website, you can certainly find out about the program that I have for women in perimenopause and menopause. I also do have a free masterclass on there. It's called The 4 Things That Every Woman Needs to Know. Every woman in perimenopause or menopause needs to know, right? To boost their energy, feel happy and energized again, to get sleep, to ditch that bloat and belly fat. So that you can access that free webinar on my website. I also offer IFS coaching and Reiki services. So laurenbcallahan.com.
I love that. Thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate now in the purpose you have to help women find healing in their gut health and hormones and feeling and loving themselves. So thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Close the Chapter podcast. My hope is that you took home some actionable steps along with motivation, inspiration, and hope for making sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button to be sure to get the updated episodes every week, and share with a friend or a family member. For more information about how to get connected, visit Kristen, Kristen, Boice, Boice.com. Thanks and have a great day.